They say some houses breathe, even after their owners quit doing so. You can hear it in the wind that sighs through the shutters, smell it in the dust that tastes like old perfume and fire smoke. Now it's just a husk. Windows shattered, porch half collapsed, paint peeled to grey bones. And if you stand still long enough, you can swear you hear M2 voices whispering soft as a prayer. Samuel and Eleanor Ashwood. Once they had it all. Now they're just a story folks whisper when the night wind starts to hum through the magnolia trees. A story of riches, ruin, and a love that refused to die. So sit a spell, darling. I'll tell ya how it all went down, the rise and fall of the last light of Ashwood Manor. The year was 1949, and the war had left its mark on everything. Ashwood Manor still stood, but the shine had long since faded. Once there'd been garden parties, violins floating from the veranda, and ladies in silk dresses laughing under gaslight chandeliers. Now the ballroom was a tomb for memories. Rats scurried through corners where the Ashwoods once waltzed, and every step Samuel took echoed off marble floors like the hollow heartbeat of a ghost. Samuel Ashwood, Lord, he'd been a king in his day, built his fortune on steel and railways, fed half the South's hunger for work. His face had been on newspapers, his words in the ears of governors, but steel rusts and fortunes fall. The war swallowed his empire. Whole factories bombed overseas, contracts gone, the young men he once employed never coming home. By 49, Samuel was an old man, thin as a fence post, hair like snow on tarnished silver. But his eyes blue as cold winter water still burned with a quiet, stubborn pride. Eleanor, his wife, was the softer flame beside him. She'd once been the belle of Savannah, all laughter and pearls and poems. Now she wore her hair in a grey braid and moved slow, like she was walking through syrup. Her hands trembled from the sickness that had taken root after the fever years ago. They lived mostly by candlelight, now couldn't afford the electricity bill half the time. Yet every night Samuel lit those candles one by one, walking through the halls with his cane, hemming an old soldier's tune as if refusing to let darkness win. The locals stopped coming round long ago. They said Ashwood was cursed, that the air up there could make your heart forget to beat. But truth is, Samuel and Eleanor just didn't belong to this new world anymore. Television, automobiles, neon lights. Progress had no room for ghosts like them. One evening, rain was pouring hard enough to drown a prayer. Samuel stood by the tall window, watching lightning crawl across the sky. Eleanor sat in her old armchair, wrapped in a shawl that smelled faintly of lilac and dust. Eleanor softly, "Do you reckon they remember us, Sam?" Samuel, without looking away, "The world don't remember nothin' that don't serve it no more." Eleanor, "Then what are we still serving, darling?" Samuel, "Love, I reckon, just love." Her eyes glistened, the candles flickered. Outside, the storm howled like something alive, crawling round the manor's bones. And for a heartbeat, she smiled so faint you'd miss it if you blinked. "Eleanor, then let's keep serving it till the world forgets how." One morning, Samuel called him into the study, the same room where contracts worth millions used to be signed. "Samuel Witt, the time's come. I can't pay you no more. Not in coin, not in promise. Witt, Mr. Sam, I ain't here for pay. I'm here 'cause this place she's all I got left to." Samuel tremblin', "I built this house for forever, Witt. But forever's got a shorter lease than I reckoned." The two men shared a silence so deep you could hear the house creak around M. When Witt left that afternoon, he tipped his hat to Eleanor and whispered a prayer under his breath. That night, Samuel sat by Eleanor's bedside, writing letters by candlelight, letters to banks that no longer cared, letters to friends who'd gone north or gone cold, letters to a son they never had, 'cause God had seen fit to take that chance away from M. Eleanor watched him from the pillows, her voice barely above a whisper. Eleanor, you still fight in shadows, my love. Samuel, ain't no shadows left to fight, darlin', just the dark. Outside, the magnolias were dropping their blossoms like tears. The world was moving on fast, cruel and blind to the manor on the hill, but inside, love held its ground like an old soldier too stubborn to die. Every morning, Samuel wheeled Eleanor out to the garden, same as he used to when she was stronger. She'd sit under the magnolia tree, a blanket over her knees, her eyes half closed as if dreaming of when the place was alive. Eleanor, it used to sing, Sam, remember that? The house, the trees, even the air it sang for us. Samuel, I remember, darlin'. I remember every note. That night, he found her old gramophone in the attic. The thing was cracked, warped with heat and time. But after an hour of tinkering, he coaxed a tune out of it. I'll be seeing you. He carried it to her bedside, set the needle down, and watched her eyes flutter open. Eleanor smiling faintly. Our song, Samuel, always was. They danced, if you could call it that, him holding her frail hand, swaying in the candlelight. The song skipped, stuttered, and faded, but the love didn't. Outside, the garden stirred in the wind, as though the world itself bowed its head for the moment, because even the ghosts knew they were watching the last dance of Ashwood Manor. Autumn came grey and brittle. The river below the hill ran low, like the world had forgotten how to flow. Samuel set the table one last time, 2 plates, 2 glasses, 1 candle between them. The dining hall, once fit for governors and generals, was now cracked and cold. Yet he polished the silverware till it gleamed, the way Eleanor liked. Eleanor, a feast for 2 ghosts. Samuel, Samuel, ain't ghosts yet, darlin'. Not till the music stops. He poured them each a small glass of red wine from a dusty bottle he'd kept since 1939. They ate what little there was bread, cheese, and the last of the preserves she'd made before her hands began to shake too bad. When they finished, Samuel took her hand and said quietly, Samuel, you remember what you told me when the war ended, Eleanor, that no matter what the world broke, it couldn't break us. Samuel, nodding, you were right, it never did. Eleanor smiled, and something in her eyes went soft, peaceful, almost weightless. Eleanor, then let's not let it start now. She reached across the table, touched his cheek, and whispered, Eleanor, promise me, Sam. Promise me when I go, you won't stay here alone. He looked at her a long while, tears catching the candlelight. Samuel, darlin', I was never any good at breaking promises. And that night they sat by the fire together, hands entwined. When dawn came, the fire was ash, the candle was gone, and so were they. Side by side in their chairs, eyes closed, smiles faint, as if they'd simply drifted off together into the quiet. Weeks later, old Whit came back up the hill. He found the door half open, the air still as a held breath. Inside, the plates were still on the table, the glasses half full. The 2 of them sat there, just as they'd been, peaceful, untouched, like time had bowed its head and walked out the door. He buried them under the magnolia tree, where Eleanor loved to sit, carved the names by hand, 'cause no stone could do M justice. Samuel and Eleanor Ashwood, who loved until the end of the world. The house stands empty now. Locals still say lights flicker in the windows at night, And sometimes, and calm summer evenings, you can hear faint music floating down the hill. Maybe it's just the wind through broken glass. Maybe it's love that never learned how to stop. Either way, Ashwood Manor breathes still. And if you ever find yourself near the river when the moon's low and silver, listen close. You might just hear them dancing together forever. They say love don't survive the years. That time takes it, just like it takes everything else. But maybe some love ain't meant to fade. Maybe some hearts beat long after the candles burn out. The world forgot Samuel and Eleanor Ashwood. Their names slipped from ledgers, their portraits gathered dust. But up on that hill, where the magnolias bloom too early and the windows still glow when no one's inside, something lingers. Some nights, when the fog rolls thick and the wind hums low, you can almost hear a gramophone playing, soft, scratchy, but certain. And if you listen close enough, you'll hear her laughter, faint and sweet. Then his, warm and tired, but still full of her name. 'Cause some stories don't end, they just settle. Like dust, like light, like love that refuses to die. And so the manor sleeps, and two old souls keep dancing in the dark. Not as ghosts, not as memories, but as proof that even when the world ends, love can still find a way to keep the lights on. This was the last light of Ashwood Manor, and maybe, just maybe, it still burns tonight.